Well, that's Piccolo out the way. I wonder how Gohan will feel about this. Of course. Dragon Ball Xenoverse is a fighting game released for PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and PC in February 2015. The game is notable for incorporating a lot of the story elements from Dragon Ball Online, an MMORPG released back in 2010 in Asia. This game is also the first Dragon Ball game that has been developed by Dimps since Burst Limit back in 2008. The main story of the game revolves around Future Trunks, now acting as a time patroller, enlisting a future warrior, that's you, to help him and the Supreme Kai of Time restore discrepancies in the Dragon Ball timeline. Mysterious forces have changed a lot of the events that have happened in the Dragon Ball timeline in favour of the villains. An example would be Raditz successfully killing both Goku and Piccolo, or Gohan failing to transform into a Super Saiyan 2, thus losing the fight against Perfect Cell. Your self-insert's job is to visit these time periods and right the wrongs, so that the story of Dragon Ball progresses, mostly, the way everyone knows it, and confront the villains responsible. So let's get cracking and start off with the good. I like the concept of the game in general. I've always felt that playing through the story of Dragon Ball Z does start to get a little bit old, and playing as a self-insert to correct the timeline from an outsider's point of view was a very good way to put it. Not only do you have to repair the timeline, but you also have to stop the people who are behind the disturbances, which will slowly unravel itself as you play through the game. Once you complete the story missions, you can also partake in side missions known as parallel quests, in which you can help the heroes or villains in various scenarios during that respective saga. Some parallel quests even have you fighting against villains from the series one after the other, or heroes from the Boo saga for example, on Namek. But the real charm here is that you can also have any two characters from the series, provided that you've unlocked them, help you, or if you have friends they can join in as a character from the series, or as their future warrior for a little bit of extra fun. My definition of fun being having 3 Cells fighting the Z Warriors during the Cell games, or a Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta fighting Goku on Namek. Making the future warrior was very enjoyable for me. You have several races to choose from, and each of them have their advantages, so you can be a human, Saiyan, Namekian, Majin, or Frieza's race. There isn't actually a name for his race either, it's simply listed as Frieza's race. You can also change facial details and even the colour of your clothes, although it's only limited to certain clothes. Clothing colours can be changed during the game, but in order to change your physical appearance you'll need to collect the 7 Dragon Balls and wish for it. Another thing I also enjoyed with the game is that the future warrior can learn a lot of the skills and techniques from characters throughout the series. Some of the skills like the Kamehameha and God Breaker can be obtained through parallel quests or can be bought in the store, which I'll talk a little bit more on later. But the real charm comes from learning techniques from the characters themselves. Heroes and villains throughout the series may appear in Toki Toki City, your central hub, and offer to train your future warrior, imparting onto them moves that you wouldn't be able to buy or gain through parallel quests. Once you've had their skills for a while and complete some parallel quests, your teacher may even ask you to spar with them, and defeat them with the move to show that you've mastered it, before teaching you the next move. Finally, a character will teach you one of their ultimate moves once you've mastered everything they have to teach you. What they can't teach you though is how to handle the bad. The central hub of Toki Toki City isn't exactly my cup of tea. The city is split up into 4 sections, each with points of interest in them. One section has the gate leading to where you go on time patrols or story missions. Another section is to go on time patrols. There's another section for parallel quests and other online activities, and finally a shopping area for buying skills, items, costumes and mixing items. While I understand that it's to give the impression of being in a city that you can run around in, it starts to feel annoying starting off in one section, then running down the stairs, hang a right to go into the next section, then hang another right to go and do time patrol missions. Trunks is even standing in the parallel quests area too, so I think that if they perhaps added an option to Trunks so that you could go on time patrols from the parallel quests area, it would make things a little bit easier and a little bit more convenient. Some of the skills you can get from parallel quests can either be really easy or really hard to get. As a matter of fact, a lot are all up to chance, requiring you to replay the quest over and over while slowly dying on the inside. One mission in particular that my friends and I have shared our frustrations with is the parallel quest to get the Super Saiyan skill. The prerequisites to getting that capsule is to get Goku to transform. To get Goku to transform, you have to defeat Krillin before him. The problem is that despite killing Krillin before Goku, in a lot of cases Goku will not transform, and you need to defeat him in his Super Saiyan state to have any chance of getting the skill. That, on top of the fact that even if you do defeat him as a Super Saiyan, you only get a chance of getting the skill, and if the lose conditions are met, in other words First Form Frieza being defeated, you will pass the mission, but you wouldn't get the skill because Goku wasn't defeated as a Super Saiyan. This also applies to a Cell Games parallel quest to get Super Saiyan 2. Gohan needs to be defeated last, but him transforming to Super Saiyan 2 is all down to chance, as well as getting the skill if you beat him in this state. While that does encourage grinding a mission to get the skills or items you need, the prerequisites for getting them are inconsistent and very frustrating, whether you're trying to do it alone, or even if you have friends wanting the same skill playing the same mission with you. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but the CPU characters that you can pick to help you in parallel quests, if they have access to a transformation state, they never seem to use it. Whether there needs to be special requirements or if it's completely random, I've never had a character transform in the hours I've invested in the game. Another thing I wasn't keen on, and this is just me being nitpicky at this point, was the idea that the World Martial Arts Tournament is either online or local multiplayer now. The online one is more or less an event held every so often between players. I suppose in all fairness it's to represent how in the series the World Martial Arts Tournament was held every 3 to 5 years, and on top of that the game is quite online orientated, so I can understand why the developers decided to go that way. But at least add in CPU vs CPU matches again. I can at least have a lot of fun watching how those turn out. With that, let's move on with The Ugly, where I discuss graphics. Dragon Ball Xenoverse is certainly a very pretty game. The last Dragon Ball game in which I was impressed with the visual impact of the game was Burst Limit back in 2008. The games which followed, in my opinion, seemed to lack the visual appeal that Burst Limit had to offer, and Xenoverse was one of those games where I thought, wow, this game looks great. Only gripe I have though is the game is a bit heavy on the bloom, which I understand can be changed in the PC version. Music is another thing I like about the game. It's been a long time since I've thoroughly enjoyed the soundtrack of a Dragon Ball game, and while Burst Limit had a couple of good songs I like listening to, I felt that Xenoverse took that a step further. However, despite Kenji Yamamoto's plagiarism, his work on the soundtrack for the Dragon Ball Z Budokai series and Burst Limit were great, and very hard to top, so I think the folks who handled Xenoverse's music did an excellent job of it. So I'll wrap this review up with a final thought. Dragon Ball Xenoverse has been the first Dragon Ball game that wasn't on a handheld system that I've genuinely had fun with in a long time. And believe me, when it comes to Dragon Ball games, there are only a few that I haven't played. The story to me was the breath of fresh air that the series needed, and despite the fact that I preferred the Budokai control schemes over the Tenkaichi ones, I found that Xenoverse's controls were very easy to learn, so I could get into enjoying the game very quickly. That, combined with appealing visuals and soundtrack, certainly makes Xenoverse a game that is an absolute treat to play. So if you haven't bought the game yet, I highly recommend you go and pick it up. It's a fun game and I don't regret a cent of it. Overall, I would give Dragon Ball Xenoverse an ultimate Gohan out of 10. The Super Saiyan 2 form during the Cell games representing the Budokai series and Burst Limit, while his ultimate state in the Buu saga showing Xenoverse's return to form. Thanks for watching everyone, and stay tuned.
And now for the rating. I would give Dragon Ball Xenoverse a Dragon Ball out of 10. Unfortunately, the game never got released in Europe, and the copy that Seraph tried to import from North America got lost in transit. I sure hope he's having fun reviewing the Order 1886. I'm glad I'm not the one doing it.